Part 25.4, Surah Al-Furqan, the Criterion, Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back to Sufi Essence with Hammad Syed. Our journey through Surah Al-Furqan, the Criterion, continues, guiding us through the decisive spiritual contrasts inherent in this powerful surah. Having established the absolute majesty of Allah, refuted the disbeliever's slander against the Prophet Mohammad, peace be upon him, and presented the terrifying reality of hellfire against the magnificence of the Garden of Eternity, the narrative now shifts to elaborate on the comprehensive nature of paradise. In verses 16 through 20, Allah provides a detailed and glorious portrait of the believer's ultimate reward, and then returns to address the core issue of prophethood and the pervasive doubt in the hearts of the Makkans. These verses serve to solidify the truth for the believers and remove the last vestiges of the worldly objections raised by the opponents. This segment of the surah is profoundly comforting and instructive. It assures the Muttaqin, the God-fearing, that their recompense is not merely a transient luxury, but an eternal fulfillment of desire and a definitive magnificent destination. The verses further reiterate Allah's response to the materialist's scorn, emphasizing that the human mortal nature of the Prophet, peace be upon him, was a conscious divine design. Allah could have sent angels or granted the Prophet, peace be upon him, worldly wealth, but he deliberately chose a man who would walk in the marketplaces and eat food so that he might be the perfect, relatable role model for all mankind. This reaffirmation is a key element of the Criterion, distinguishing true spiritual wisdom from the shallow demands of the world. Let us now immerse ourselves in the continuation of this divine light, beginning with the description of paradise. Kanzolaman, Quran, Al-Furqan, the Criterion, 25-16, verse 16. Therein is for them whatsoever they desire, abiding forever. This is a promise binding upon the Sustainer, to be prayed for. The 16th verse beautifully elaborates on the nature of the ultimate reward, the Garden of Eternity, first mentioned in the previous segment. Therein is for them whatsoever they desire, abiding forever. This statement captures the essence of paradise as a realm of complete, unbounded fulfillment. The phrase, whatsoever they desire mayashuna fiya, signifies that every possible wish, yearning, and aspiration of the blessed souls will be instantly and perfectly realized. It is a state where desire meets effortless gratification. But unlike the fleeting, often disappointing pleasures of this world, the key is the permanence, abiding forever kaladina. The joy is not momentary, it's an eternal, unending state of spiritual and physical perfection. The verse concludes with a powerful affirmation of its certainty. This is a promise binding upon the Sustainer, to be prayed for. This reward is not a casual hope, but a solemn promise wadden established by the Sustainer Rab. The fact that this promise is to be prayed for masculine highlights the importance of active supplication and spiritual striving. It teaches the believer that while the promise is certain on Allah's part, it requires human effort and humility to ask for it, making the yearning for paradise an integral part of one's worship and a sign of true faith. This assures the Muttaqin that their journey of piety has a definite, glorious end. Kanzel Iman Quran, Al-Furqan, the Criterion, 25-17, verse 17. And the day when he will gather them, and those whom they worship besides Allah, then he will say, was it you who misled these, my bondmen, or did they themselves wander away from the path? The narrative now shifts dramatically back to the Day of Judgment, portraying a moment of profound confrontation between the polytheists, their false deities, and Allah, and the day when he will gather them, and those whom they worship besides Allah. This is a scene of reckoning where the reality of the polytheists' devotion is brutally exposed. Those whom they worship besides Allah refers to the idols, the angels, the saints, or any created being that was given a share of Allah's divinity or power. They are all gathered together for the final interrogation. Allah then addresses the false objects of worship. Then he will say, was it you who misled these, my bondmen, or did they themselves wander away from the path? This question is a rhetorical device designed to highlight the utter powerlessness, the innocence of the worshipped objects, and the self-inflicted error of the worshippers. The angels and the righteous ones, like Jesus, peace be upon him, will immediately profess their absolute devotion to Allah alone, while the inanimate idols will remain silent. The true purpose of the question is to establish the ultimate responsibility. The polytheists themselves wandered away from the path Dalua Sabila. They chose to abandon the clear path of Tawhid, making their own spiritual choices the cause of their misguidance. Ganal, Iman Quran, Al-Furqan, the Criterion, 25-18. Verse 18. They will say, "Glory be to you. It was not befitting for us to take other protectors besides you. But you gave them and their fathers ease of life, till they forgot the remembrance and became a people who were ruined." The response of the false deities, representing those entities capable of speech, such as angels or prophets, is one of immediate and absolute submission, affirming pure monotheism. They will say, "Glory be to you." Subhanaka is a declaration of Allah's perfect holiness and freedom from any deficiency or partnership. They declare their complete distance from the sin of shirk polytheism. It was not befitting for us to take other protectors besides you. This solemn denial clarifies once and for all that true divine servants never sought or accepted worship. They then accurately diagnose the reason for the polytheists' downfall. But you gave them and their fathers ease of life, till they forgot the remembrance and became a people who were ruined. The root of the polytheists' error was not the fault of the worshipped beings, but the corrupting influence of ease of life meta-hum. Worldly prosperity and comfort caused them to become heedless, forgetting the remembrance dhikr of Allah and His message. Their spiritual ruin was not a destiny forced upon them, but a consequence of their own choices and abandonment of their spiritual duty in favor of transient luxury. This is a timeless warning that comfort and prosperity can be a severe test, leading to spiritual decay and ultimate ruin. Kanzal, Iman, Quran, Al-Furqan, the Criterion, 25-19 verse 19. So indeed, they lied to you in what you say. So now you cannot have the power to ward off punishment, nor to get any help. And whoever of you does oppression, we shall make him taste a severe torment. The 19th verse is the divine judgment, directed at the polytheists, who are now standing face to face with the objects of their worship. Now indeed they lied to you in what you say. Allah confirms that the idols or the false deities have exposed the lie inherent in the polytheists' belief system. The entities they worshipped have testified against them, proving their claim of association was baseless. The consequence is immediate and definitive. So now you cannot have the power to ward off punishment, nor to get any help. The power they sought in their false protectors has vanished entirely, leaving them defenseless and devoid of any source of aid. The verse concludes with a universal principle of justice. And whoever of you does oppression, we shall make him taste a severe torment. The act of associating partners with Allah shirk is the greatest form of oppression, zulm, the ultimate misplacement of devotion. This statement confirms that divine justice is absolute and applies to every single individual, whoever of you, who commits this profound spiritual injustice. The promised severe torment is the inevitable, just end for those who consciously corrupted the clear truth of Tawhid. Kanza, Iman, Quran, Al-Furqan, the Criterion. 25 minutes and 20 seconds, verse 20. And we did not send any messengers before you, but they certainly ate food and walked about in the marketplaces. And we have made some of you a trial for others. Will you have patience? Your sustainer is ever seeing. Returning to the Makkans' specific materialistic objection from the earlier verses, the 20th verse delivers the final, definitive answer about the human nature of the Prophet, peace be upon him. And we did not send any messengers before you, but they certainly ate food and walked about in the marketplaces. This affirms that the Prophet's, peace be upon him, humanity was not a flaw, but the established Sunnah way of prophethood. All previous messengers, including Noah, peace be upon him, Abraham, peace be upon him, and Moses, peace be upon him, were human beings who shared the common necessities of life. They ate food and walked about in the marketplaces. This completely nullifies the Makkans' demand for an angelic messenger, confirming that a human prophet is the perfect, divinely chosen model for human guidance. The verse then offers a profound lesson on the purpose of life. And we have made some of you a trial for others. Will you have patience? The challenges we face from other people, whether the arrogance of the rich towards the poor, the scorn of the disbeliever towards the believer, or the trials between any two groups, are all a trial, fitna, a test of faith and character. The core of this test is patience, tasperu. The believer's ability to endure the scorn and oppression of the Makkans, just as the Prophet, peace be upon him, endured it, is the measure of their true spiritual resolve. The verse closes with a comforting and authoritative reminder, and your sustainer is ever-seeing Rabuka Baskrin. Allah sees and records every trial, every act of patience, and every moment of oppression, assuring the believers that their steadfastness is perfectly observed and will be justly rewarded. The closing verse of this segment emphasizes the divine wisdom behind the Prophet's peace be upon him, human nature and the necessity of patience, sabr in the face of trial. The following hadith speaks directly to the virtue and immense reward of patience, which is the key to passing the test of this life. Hadith narrated Suhabe, may Allah be pleased with him. The Prophet, peace be upon him, taught, how wonderful is the case of a believer. There is good for him in everything, and this is true only for the believer. If prosperity comes to him, he thanks Allah, and that is good for him. If adversity afflicts him, he patiently endures it, and that is better for him. Sahih Muslim, hadith number 2999. This beautiful hadith, narrated by Suhab, may Allah be pleased with him, encapsulates the spiritual fortitude required to endure the trial mentioned in verse 20. The Prophet, peace be upon him, taught that the life of a true believer is defined by goodness in everything because of their reliance on Allah. When faced with the scorn and opposition of the Makkans' adversity, the required response is to patiently endure it, Sabr. This patience is not passive resignation but an active spiritual resolve that ultimately yields a greater reward. Similarly, when Allah grants ease of life, the believer responds with thanks, shukr. This continuous cycle of patience and gratitude in all circumstances is the practical application of the criterion, making the believer's life a beautiful testament to the wisdom and guidance of Allah, whose eye is ever seeing. Let us now supplicate, drawing from the profound lessons of these verses, asking Allah to grant us a deeper understanding and to guide our every step. Dua. O Allah, our sustainer, the giver of all that is desired, grant us the pure vision to never forget your remembrance, dhikr, amid the ease and comfort of this fleeting life, and protect us from the spiritual ruin that overtakes those who are seduced by worldly prosperity. Make us steadfast in our belief that your messenger, peace be upon him, is the perfect human exemplar, and strengthen our hearts with immense patience, sabr, when you make us a trial for others. We beseech you to fulfill your binding promise of the Garden of Eternity, where all desires are perfectly realized, and grant us a destination where we are sheltered by your magnificent names, Ar-Rahman and Ar-Rahim. May Allah illuminate your heart and mind with the light of this divine ill. May He make your channel a beacon of guidance for all who seek spiritual clarity and truth. May your efforts be a source of immense reward, and may you be granted the highest stations of paradise. May the peace and blessings of Allah always be upon you and your loved ones. May He grant you unwavering steadfastness on the path of truth, and may your work be a testament to His magnificent names, Ar-Rahman and Ar-Rahim.